When it comes to mixing vocals, I find that there are certain problems that always present themselves. These problems are consistent in almost every single track that I do, and I know because I've been mixing tons of songs for years. And I've put so many hours in that I'm able to automatically identify, recognize, and fix these problems. But if you're an artist that's mixing their own songs, or if you're somebody who's mixing vocals and you're not so sure every single time what you should be doing, this is going to be a great video for you because I'm going to highlight 3 common vocal mixing problems that come up every time and how to solve them. Are you ready? Let's go. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy 5-Piece producer and engineer extraordinaire. Thank you for checking out this video. If you're somebody who's new here, welcome to my channel and definitely consider subscribing to it if you get value out of this video. I have tons of content all about vocal mixing, recording, mastering, production, and even how to make money with your music. And I know I'll be able to provide a lot of value to you if you subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you're a returning subscriber who's back to watch another video, I really appreciate you for checking this out. I do this for you guys especially. Now in today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 common vocal mixing problems that always presents themselves and how to solve them. Now with that in mind, what I am going to do is suggest a few solutions. I'm not going to give you the end-all be-all for everything, but I'm going to give you sort of my favorite solutions to each of these problems. But don't you worry, if you want to go a little bit deeper and learn even more, I am going to provide links and references to other videos that I've done that really explore these problems way more in depth, and I know that you'll find them very helpful. Now with that in mind, let's get on to Pro Tools and I'll show you what's going on. Now, one of the first problems that presents itself in a mix is muddiness. Muddiness is essentially having excessive low end, too much low frequency content on a sound, and that gives it this perception that it's just less clear, less clean, more bloated perhaps, just less articulated, and we don't always want that. I've got a song here by my guy Sorry, it's called Rampage. All the songs I'm going to play in this video, I will leave a link to them in the description below, assuming that they're available. But with this particular song, there's really only 2 things that I'm doing to fix muddiness, and that is using a Pro Q and a Pro MB. So a little bit of EQ and a little bit of multi-band compression focused on a specific frequency band. Now, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, low frequencies are usually what's responsible for this muddy perception, like I was saying. And generally, you want to look at affecting somewhere between 30 Hertz, which is the most left point here on this EQ, upwards of about 600 Hertz. Okay, so that's where this point is. So this whole low end is generally where muddiness lives, okay? And to be fair, this sort of 200 to 600 range is more like low mids, and then 200 and below we're getting more into bass and sub territory, but both contribute to this problem. So before I do anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just play you this track, and I'm going to leave the chain in, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bypass these 2 plugins because those are the ones that are ultimately solving this muddiness problem. I do know that some of these others are going to kind of contribute a little bit to fixing it as well, but really most of the heavy lifting is happening as a result of this Pro Q and Pro MB. So let me play you this without these 2 plugins and put it in so you can get a little bit of a better idea of what I did and how I fixed it. Here we go.
Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man, I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You ain't getting no one. A sticky situation got me feeling type of ways. Don't wanna fight, but they try my name. Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man, I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You ain't getting no one. A sticky situation got me feeling type of ways. Don't wanna fight, but they try my name. Anybody want it, they can ask for it.
Okay, so hopefully in that little blurb you're able to hear the difference. It's just a little bit smoother. It's definitely a bit of a subtle move. It's not a crazy huge move. I never try to do these big moves. You guys should know that if you're coming back to my channel. I try to just massage things gently into place. You know what I mean? Now with that in mind, let's first take a look at this Pro Q. With this Pro Q, what I'm doing, and this is my favorite strategy, or one of my favorite strategies, is first of all, I'm going to filter out low end. Okay, so low end, we don't really need it on a vocal. Now, before somebody roasts me in the comments, yes, we do need low end from the perspective of we want warmth and presence, and if we remove too much of it, well, you're ultimately going to end up with a thin vocal that doesn't necessarily sound as good. We don't want that. I don't want that either, right? But there are frequencies in the low end that we don't necessarily need. And I find sometimes upwards of, let's say 100 hertz and below, you can basically filter upwards of that. I'm not saying you're going to go all that way, but somewhere towards that direction, and you'll probably not suffer any consequences. And at the same time, what that's going to do is it's going to clear up space for the bass, the kick, and the other stuff that's happening in your instrumental and not have your vocal clash with that. But we're not talking about that. What we're actually talking about is how to fix muddiness, and this is also going to do that. It's going to remove the low end, the bass, the problematic frequencies, and if there's proximity effect on a vocal, it's also going to help remedy that. And by doing that, it's going to shift the frequency focus and attention upwards. It's going to make, almost in a way, all of this top end stuff appear a little bit bigger and shinier and more pristine, right? And that's really a simple move by just simply putting in a filter. So check this out. This is the filter I've done. And remember, I said 100 hertz is sort of the top end of where you want to go. I've actually filtered up to 131 here. This is a very aggressive move on my part. I don't always do this, but in this case, it seemed to work. Check out the frequency that I'm losing here. I'm going to put this in.
Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You wouldn't get it no when it's...
So you hear how that's excessive low end, right? It's basically just the lows and the sub. And these frequencies, it might seem kind of important now, but in context, they're not necessarily as important. So getting rid of this was definitely a key thing that I've done here. All of these other moves that I've done are not necessarily relevant to the muddiness. I'm just sort of correcting some other things. But this low cut filter is really where all the heavy lifting is coming from. So check this out. If I just take this out alone and listen to everything else with everything in, let me get rid of this multi-band as well. But just with this band in and out, we'll see the difference.
Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You wouldn't get it no when it's sticky situation got me feeling type of ways. Don't want to fight, but they try my name. Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You wouldn't get it no when it's sticky situation got me feeling type of ways.
It is definitely sounding a bit thinner. Again, I've gone a little bit maybe more aggressive than I should have, you know, but I actually don't necessarily mind it. And then also you're going to see in the next move, I kind of help compensate for what I've done here. You're going to see in a moment. So moving on to the Pro MB, and by the way, while I am using a Pro MB here, you may actually want to use a dynamic EQ, but the goal with this is I wanted to continue to control this low band. I have 600 hertz to 30 hertz sort of sectioned off here, and I'm compressing that. Now, this looks pretty big, but realize this is 2 dB. So 2 dB is basically the maximum amount of volume loss or gain reduction that we can get here, right? That's because of the range I've set. And at the same time, if you notice, there's a curve here. I've boosted the low end by 1 dB. So I've boosted this to compensate for that loss that I've had, right? And this may be a little bit more of an advanced technique, but just pointing it out. And what I'm doing is I'm reducing this frequency only when it's a problem. And when is it a problem? Well, whenever it passes this threshold that I've set. So basically, whenever there's too much volume, too much low-end volume specifically in this 30 to 600 range, this Pro MB is going to turn on, reduce, keep things in check, and then when it's not a problem anymore, it's going to go back to a uncompressed or dynamic state. So check this out. Let me just solo the band so you hear what we're listening for.
Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back.
Okay, so you know what we're listening for, so let me put this in again, and I'll play it without and then with.
Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You wouldn't get it no when it's sticky situation got me feeling type of ways. Don't want to fight, but they try my name. Anybody want it, they can ask for it. Do I got a plan? Nah, man. I just go for it. Top back, get smacked. You wouldn't get it no when it's sticky situation got me feeling type of ways. Don't want to fight, but they try my name. Anybody.
So again, it just feels a little bit smoother. You know, it's again a very subtle difference. But this is definitely helping remedy that muddiness. And to be fair, this track wasn't the most muddy track I've ever heard, but there were still some of these problems in that low frequency range that I wanted to address. And the way that I did it once again is with the Pro Q, doing some filtering, and then using some sort of dynamic band, dynamic EQ, or a Pro MB, a multi-band, to continue to control that low end. Now, if you are somebody who wants to learn more about fixing muddy vocals, as I've done here, I offer these strategies and even more in a special video that I did, ironically titled, How to Fix Muddy Vocals. So if you want some more information on that and more strategies, I'll leave a link to it up above right now, and I'll put it in the description below so you can watch it at your convenience. Now, the second common problem that a lot of us are dealing with when it comes to mixing vocals is harshness. And I had that problem on this track here. This is Everything Ocean's Thessaloniki. You might recognize it from some of my past videos as well. Again, leaving a link to it in the description below. There's a few ways to address this, and one of my favorite ways that I'm going to address first is using clip gain. And it's very easy for me to say that in Pro Tools because Pro Tools does this very well. Other DAWs, I'm going to be honest, do not do this so great, whereas this is very convenient for me. So all the Pro Tools users were all winning because of this. But as you can see, I've cropped out certain phrases, right? You see I've turned this down by -2, -3, -1, and chances are these things that I've cropped are S's or T's or CH's or something that's basically harsh and sibilant, right? So let me just actually play this for a moment. I'll just solo this vocal again here.
Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki.
So just that phrase alone, next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki, right? Next time, Thessaloniki, right? 3 words, just there alone, very sibilant, very harsh, right? Basically, the first thing I've done is I've grabbed the S's.
Stop.
See that? That's the next, but it's the ext, right? And this is time, right? So a little bit of the beginning of the T, you know? And then over here, this will be Thessaloniki, I'm imagining.
Thessaloniki.
Or maybe it's Thessaloniki. I don't even know, to be honest. But I do know it's a city in Greece. If anybody knows, tell me how to say it down below in the comments. But with that in mind, you see how I've kind of gone in and I've turned down these very specific problems, right? Like if I just want to solo each one. So that's the test, right? You can kind of hear what's going on here. I'm really grabbing just the sibilant parts and I'm manually clip gaining them down, right? And I'm trying to just find a level where I think it's appropriate, right? And this is really the first step that's happening. I'm going to do this first because it'll give me the most amount of control. It's definitely a very tedious process, but going into each of these S's and doing that is going to be extremely helpful for controlling harsh frequencies. Now we can take it up a step further once we've done that. And of course, I've done this across the board, but we're just going to focus on this particular section. The next thing that I would recommend doing is using something like a de-esser. And if you could see on my chain here, I actually have 2. I have one at the beginning of the chain and one at the end. You could do that. You can use one. It really depends. You may not even need to use a de-esser at all. I am very wary of de-essers sometimes because they can drastically change how a song or a vocal sounds. So you definitely want to use them delicately. And in my case, you know, I have a 2 decibel range, so a very light range. And this is basically only going to reduce the actual S's, the T's, the CH's, the problematic spots in this very narrow window that I have of 8.86K to 14.55K. Just to show you what we're listening for here, this is the frequency that we're focused on. So you can kind of hear how those specific phrases kind of play into this, right? And if we're talking about what we're losing, if I press this, we're going to hear only what I'm losing. Right? A lot of it's like someone's sharing a secret. You know what I mean? So, and this is a good thing. Obviously, I'm not going to leave it like this. This was just to audition and hear it. But we're using the de-esser here, the threshold, the range, and sequencing or focusing on a specific part of the sequence, a specific frequency band, I should say, to fix this problem of harshness. Now, in terms of where to place it, if you have sibilance issues right off the bat before you've done any processing, put your de-esser very early in the chain, first, second plug-in, right? Maybe not before you're tuning, but definitely right after. You know what I mean? So de-essing definitely is one key strategy. And as you may be wondering, I did put it again at the end. This is because throughout this processing, I'm doing some stuff. I'm lifting some high end and stuff. So I want to put another one to just continue to control it. You can see this is a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a wider curve, a little bit more of an aggressive range. And if we want, we can actually just hear what I'm losing here. Let me just hear the frequency first. So some of the same frequencies. And now if we listen to what we're losing. Right? Now it sounds like passing secrets to a beatbox, So de-essing, another key thing that I've done here. And really, I would say those two are my favorite strategies, but there are so many more. And I've created a great video that outlines so many different ways you could approach fixing harsh vocals if you run into this problem. I'll leave a link to that up above. It's called How to Fix Harsh Vocals. I love to use these simple, straightforward titles so you know exactly what you're getting. If you want to watch that, click the link up above or look for it in the description below. Now, the final problem that I want to cover in this video, maybe I'm cheating a little bit because it ties into the first, but it's about a lack of clarity. A lot of us have a lack of clarity in our vocals, and the first problem, treating muddiness, is an important factor to helping with this, but I do like to treat this as its own sort of thing. We want to increase the clarity of a vocal, the intelligibility of a vocal, and there's a number of ways that we can do this. I've got another song here, it's Stamina, featuring Oscar Sharp, a lifestyle investor. Once again, link down below. But on this song, it's not the worst, but sometimes I feel like the vocal was not as clear as I wanted it to be. Even after some of my processing and enhancements, I still felt like it was lacking a little bit on the high-end department, so to speak. So I think I just kind of gave away one thing that I like to do to increase clarity, and there's a reason why you see a lot of engineers doing this. It's because it works, and that is by boosting the high end. We want to add some presence to the high end, which will give this illusion that things are just a lot more clear and shiny and pristine. You'd be amazed at how a crazy boost at 10 or 12K, even though it might create some harshness and problems from that perspective, which you could solve using the strategies I just mentioned in point number 2, even though it's going to create those problems, the good outweighs the bad. You know, if it sounds a lot more shiny and high-end and competitive, that's a win, right? And a lot of times, boosting this high-frequency content will allow you to sound more intelligible and will allow your track to cut and just sound a lot better. It's very simple. I don't think I need to explain it any more than that. So let's look at some of the things that I've done. Of course, I've done some of the steps that I mentioned before, such as treating harshness with a de-esser, such as fixing some of the muddiness. You see, I got a dynamic band. I didn't use a Pro MB here, and a really aggressive filter once again, right? But really the things that I'm doing here that are going to improve the clarity of the track is twofold. The first is adding some saturation, and the second is to add a high-end boost, all right? Doing some specific manipulation of the frequency content with an EQ to boost the highs, and maybe even dip the lows or the low mids ever so slightly. So let's actually play this real quick, and I'm going to take these two out, and then I'll put them in so you can hear how much of a difference it makes.
Lifestyle investor, live life, my terms, yeah. Comment on fait ça en investissement pour prendre des coups sans soucier des sous. Elite mindset, we level up our whole crew, pushing our limits like we driving off a coupe. Got my whole team living, brought the vibes to the room. Locked in, we don't play, we step up, make the rules. Lifestyle investor, live life, my terms, yeah. Comment on fait ça en investissement pour prendre des coups sans soucier des sous.
Alright, so hopefully you could hear it. Again, much like these other moves, it's somewhat subtle at times, but I definitely notice it, especially when I take it out. That's when I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds like a little bit, I don't even know how to describe it, but a little less clear, a little darker, right? And you can see how these moves are helping. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm using my go-to favorite, lo-fi plugin from Avid, adding a 0.1 of distortion, and I believe this is just automated because I'm doing some crazy move maybe at some point. Maybe not, actually. No, I'm not. So this is just lit up for whatever reason, indicating that it's automatable, but I'm not even doing that, Either way, though, adding a 0.1 of each, you'll be amazed at how much it adds to the clarity and the presence of a sound. So let's actually check this out real quick.
Lifestyle investor, live life, my terms, yeah. Comment on fait ça en investissement pour prendre des coups sans soucier des sous. Elite mindset, we level up our whole crew, pushing.
So even this small of a move, you can see how it's kind of enhancing the harmonic content. It's creating more harmonic content. It's creating more high frequencies, almost like an EQ, how you can boost frequencies with an EQ. It's kind of doing that, but not really. It's not doing it in the same way, but it's giving you the same illusion. If you do want to learn more about vocal saturation and how I think about doing stuff like this, and not only that, but how to see this in a few different ways, I'll leave a link to a video right now all about that, and it's going to be in the description below like the others. So obviously, this is one key step that's helping warm everything up, increase the high-end presence, and achieve a little bit more clarity in the process. To build on that, let's look at this EQ I have. I'm using the Mag EQ4 here, and I'm using the Air Band. And you see here that I have it set to 10K, and I'm adding, honestly, a very aggressive amount. I'm adding like just under 5, like about a 4.5 dB boost, right? And at the same time, I am adding a little bit of 2.5. So somewhere in that 2 to 3K range, that could be very harsh. But at the same time, this is where the intelligibility of the vocal is. So if you are able to boost it without increasing the harshness on the track, you may want to consider doing that. It'll definitely make your vocal sound a little bit more intelligible in the process, which will ultimately allow it to sound clearer, right? And then as you can see here, I'm actually doing a 0.5 dip at 650, so in this low kind of mid-range, more mid-range, but definitely getting closer to that low territory. And then I am reducing the sub and the low frequencies by another 0.5 each, right? So 40 hertz, 0.5, and sub 0.5 reduction on both accounts. So let's actually see how this affects things. This is definitely going to be doing a lot more heavy lifting, especially this air band. This air band is a miraculous thing. It's why I like using this EQ, but you don't have to use this. You can literally just put a shelf on a standard graphical EQ like a Pro EQ or a stock EQ and achieve the same results. Let's check this out.
Lifestyle, investor, live life, my terms, yeah. Comment on fait ça en investissement pour prendre des coups sans soucier des sous. Elite mindset, we level up our whole crew, pushing our limits like we driving off a coupe. Got my whole team living, brought the vibes to the room, locked in, we don't play.
So you kind of hear what it's doing, right? You definitely see me peaking, clipping a little bit. You hear a little bit of audible distortion. I don't personally mind this. I look at this like a stylistic thing, and I know there's going to be somebody out there who's going to complain about this and saying, man, you don't know what you're doing. You can have your opinion. That's fine. But when I listen to records these days, and I'm talking about the biggest records, stuff from, you know, producers like Mike Will, from artists like Kid Cudi, Kanye, and I'm hearing all kinds of noticeable audible digital distortion. It's done in a musical way. I also believe that this is the case. I like how this sounded and I approve of this. However, if you don't like it, well, maybe don't push things as hard, right? But I like to push things, go a little bit crazy sometimes and achieve a certain result, which I'm satisfied with. Either way, all you guys got to understand watching is that adding some high end can be very helpful to improving the clarity of your vocal, and at the same time, boosting somewhere in that 2 to 3K range will also drastically help you achieve more clarity because that's where the intelligibility of the vocal is. Now, similar to the other points in this video, if you want to learn more about how to achieve more clarity on your vocals, I have a video with 3 tips that'll help you achieve this. I'll leave a link to it up above or down below right now. So there you have it. These are some of the common vocal mixing problems that I'm dealing with every single day when I'm mixing. I hope you guys found this helpful, and I hope you found the strategies even more helpful and my thinking behind them as well. I would love to know what you found to be the most helpful part of this video. Leave it in the comments below. I'd greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't done so already, please smash that like button until it turns blue. It would mean so much to me, and it would help my content reach more people like yourself. Plus, it'll let the YouTube algorithm know that you want to see some more content like this, which should be helpful for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, what you waiting on? Please do that. I drop a video every single week, always focused on helping you sound better and helping you make more money with your music. I'm excited to continue dropping these gems for you guys. All I ask is you pay the small fee, leave me a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. If you've done both, you're good to go, and I'll see you guys on the next video. All right? Peace.
5,